The sirens hadn't even finished echoing before the first shout cut through the warm Alabama evening. "Get on the ground. Now." Children froze mid-step. Mothers clutched their purses. Old men sitting under the shade of the pecan trees slowly lifted their heads. The entire neighborhood of Willow Creek felt the shift, like the air thickened, like something ancient and heavy rolled over the block. Because everyone knew that voice. Officer Brett Mallory. The man no one wanted called on them. The man who had made it clear, there are two types of people in this town, those who listen to me, and those who get handled. And the man he was shouting at today? Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video and tell us where you are watching from. Pastor Elijah Brooks. A soft-spoken, beloved black pastor with a reputation for pulling young men off the streets and putting them into apprenticeships, mentorships, and schools. A man who had cleaned up more corners than the police ever did. And he was standing in front of New Dawn Baptist Church, still clutching a grocery bag of communion bread. No threat. No weapon. No crime. But Officer Mallory didn't need one. He just needed an audience. And today, he had the whole block. I said on the ground, "Boy." The entire block gasped. Pastor Elijah didn't move. He didn't raise his hands. He didn't step forward. He simply looked at Mallory, eyes steady, voice calm enough to chill blood. "Officer," he said softly, "my name is Elijah Brooks. I pastor here. I've done nothing wrong, sir." Mallory smirked. "Oh, I know exactly who you are." He stepped forward slowly, boots crunching on the gravel, hand never leaving his holster. "And I think it's about time someone taught you what happens when you step out of line." Phones came out. 1, 2, 20. But Mallory didn't care about cameras. He cared about domination. And today, he saw a chance to break the spirit of the one man the whole community looked to. "Turn around," Mallory hissed. "Hands behind your back. You're obstructing." But he didn't get to finish. Because just then, the doors of New Dawn Baptist opened. Every camera pivoted. Every whisper stopped. And every breath froze in place. Because the person stepping out of the church was not a deacon. Not a choir member. Not even a church elder. It was Governor Elaine Richmond. The sitting governor of Alabama. The most powerful woman in the state. And she stepped out like she'd been waiting for this moment. Her heels clicked against the church steps as she walked forward, eyes locked onto Mallory like a hawk closing in on prey. "Officer Mallory," she said, her tone smooth but laced with danger, "what exactly do you think you're doing?" Mallory blinked, thrown off for only a moment, but not enough. This doesn't concern you," he said. This man, this pastor, resisted orders. "Orders to do what?" Richmond asked. Mallory's jaw clenched. "Orders to get on the ground." "For what cause?" "For." And he hesitated. Everyone saw it. Everyone caught it on camera. The hesitation was damning. Richmond stepped closer, her voice dropping to a cold whisper. "Officer, tell me exactly what crime Pastor Brooks committed." Mallory swallowed. Then he attempted the only thing he could think of. He fit the description. Phones collectively zoomed in. The neighborhood murmured in disgust. Pastor Elijah stood silently, composed, watching Mallory unravel. Governor Richmond didn't blink. "What description?" she asked. Mallory straightened. "A black male, mid-40s. Richmond cut him off sharply. "That's half the men within 3 miles of here. That is not a description, officer. That is a stereotype dressed up as a justification." Mallory's face reddened. And then Richmond delivered the line that cracked the internet for the next week. "If you're going to abuse your badge in front of me, at least be original about it." Gasps erupted. Someone whispered, "Oh, it's over for him now." Someone else crossed themselves like they were witnessing Judgment Day. But Mallory wasn't done. Not by a long shot. "You're interfering with an active police investigation," Mallory snapped back, suddenly raising his voice loud enough for body cams and live streams to pick up. "Governor or not, you're making a mistake." Richmond's expression didn't change. "Oh, I assure you, Officer Mallory, the only mistake being made right now is yours." And then she gestured behind her, where 2 men stepped out of the church a moment later. Not aides. Not security. State troopers. The ones who outranked Mallory by a mile. The whispering grew into a wave of electric anticipation. Mallory saw them and his stance shifted, small, but visible. Nervous. Unsure. But still stubborn enough to try and save face. "I'll have your badge for this," he growled at the governor. Richmond actually chuckled. "Officer," she said, her voice velvet smooth, "You have no idea who you just threatened." Then she turned to Pastor Elijah. "Are you all right, Reverend?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, Did you threaten the officer?" she asked. "No, Did you resist arrest?" He never told me what I was being arrested for." Mallory barked, "He didn't cooperate." Richmond turned, her voice cracking like thunder. "He didn't need to cooperate with an unlawful order." The crowd murmured harder. Phones shook from adrenaline. Mallory's hands twitched near his holster again. And the moment he did, the two troopers took one step forward in perfect unison. A warning. Small. But deadly clear. "Officer," Richmond said, "remove your hand from your weapon." Mallory didn't. For 3 horrible seconds, he didn't. And the world held its breath. Until Richmond leaned closer, her voice so quiet only the cameras closest to her picked it up. "Brett, you reach for that gun, and every single person watching this will make sure you never wear a uniform again. Do you understand me?" He finally removed his hand. Shakily. Defeated. But not humbled. Not yet. Because the night wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Mallory spat on the ground. "So what?" he snapped. "You here to babysit your PR team? Or preach at the black church to look good for voters?" The crowd booed. Phones zoomed in harder. Even the troopers exchanged glances. But Governor Richmond didn't flinch. Instead, she laughed. Which made the moment even stranger. "No," she said, voice steady. "I'm here because Pastor Brooks invited me." Mallory blinked. "What?" Richmond continued, "Tonight we were discussing the launch of a statewide mentorship initiative. A joint project between my office and Pastor Brooks." Gasps erupted from the crowd. Mallory froze. Richmond smiled, just a little, but enough to cut him deep. "You see, Officer Mallory, the man you just tried to humiliate in front of his community?" She paused. "He's about to become one of the most influential leaders in the state." The phones erupted in cheers. Mallory's face registered something no one expected. Fear. Real fear. Because he finally realized. He picked the wrong black man to bully today. Mallory lifted his chin, scrambling to salvage any authority. "Governor or not," he stammered, "I can still legally detain anyone who..." But he didn't finish. Because Governor Richmond calmly reached into her coat pocket. And pulled out a small, folded document. She opened it. Looked him dead in the eye. And said, "Officer Mallory, effective immediately, you are suspended pending an internal investigation." A collective explosion of gasps cascaded down the block. "Suspended?" Mallory shouted. You can't." "Actually," Richmond said, "I can. And I just did." She motioned to the troopers. "Escort him to his vehicle. He is to surrender his badge and weapon before leaving this site." Mallory's face twisted. In rage. In humiliation. In disbelief. And yet, he had no power left. Nothing. The troopers approached. And for the first time in his entire career, Officer Mallory backed away from black men instead of advancing toward them. The entire neighborhood watched through tears, cheers, prayers, and trembling breaths. As the officer who always acted untouchable was escorted to his cruiser like a common criminal. Pastor Elijah exhaled for the first time in minutes. But before he could thank the governor, Richmond leaned close and whispered something only he and the cameras could hear. "Pastor, something about this doesn't sit right with me." Elijah frowned. "Oh." She glanced at Mallory. "He wasn't here for a routine patrol," she said. "Someone sent him." The pastor froze. "Send him?" he repeated. Richmond nodded, jaw tight. "And I need to know who, and why." As Mallory was forced to hand over his weapon, he stared daggers at Pastor Elijah. Not at the governor. Not at the troopers. But at Elijah. Like the pastor had ruined something far bigger than just his ego. And then he muttered under his breath, but loud enough for one of the cameras to catch. This was supposed to be simple. Elijah's blood ran cold. "What?" Richmond demanded. "What was supposed to be simple?" Mallory didn't answer. He just smirked. A smirk that said everything. A smirk that said, "You don't even know what you stepped into." As he sat down in the back of the trooper SUV, he called out through the open window. "You think you won something today?" The neighborhood held its breath. Mallory leaned forward, eyes dark, voice low. "This ain't over. Not for any of you." And the SUV door slammed shut, leaving a block full of terrified silence behind. Pastor Elijah turned to the crowd. Tears lined his eyes, but his voice stayed strong. "Family," he said, "I want you to remember something. Evil doesn't stop when it's embarrassing. It stops when it's exposed." People nodded, some crying, some recording, some clinging to each other. "But understand, tonight wasn't justice," he continued. "Tonight was protection. And protection only lasts for a moment. Justice lasts for generations." He looked at the governor. She nodded solemnly. "And justice," he said, "is what we're going to need next." Just as the crowd began to settle, a young boy ran out of the church. Barefoot. Breathless. Pale. "Pastor Elijah," he shouted. The pastor bent down. "What is it, son?" The boy swallowed hard. "Pastor, someone left this on your office desk." He handed Elijah a small envelope. Unmarked. Cold. Heavy. Inside was a single photo. A photo of Elijah's house. Taken from outside his bedroom window. At night. Underneath it, a handwritten note. "Next time, the governor won't be here to save you." Gasps tore through the block. Governor Richmond's face went white. Pastor Elijah's hands trembled. And the night, already shaken, fell into a terrified silence. "Pastor," Richmond whispered, "we need to get you somewhere safe." But Elijah shook his head. "No," he said. "We need to find out who wants me gone." And the camera phones rolled one last time, capturing the beginning of something far darker than anyone realized. The photo wouldn't stop trembling in Pastor Elijah's hand. A picture of his bedroom window. Taken at night. Taken up close. Someone had stood right outside his home, watching him sleep. The note beneath it felt heavier than any brick. "Next time, the governor won't be here to save you." A chill spread through the gathered crowd. Mothers hugged their children. Teens put their phones down for the first time all night. Even the air went still, as if refusing to breathe. Governor Richmond stepped forward, voice steady but eyes sharp. "Elijah, whoever sent this didn't expect me to be inside that church tonight." Pastor Elijah swallowed hard. "Which means they were watching me, but not you." The governor nodded. And that was the moment Elijah realized something horrifying. Someone close to me did this. That sentence hit the neighborhood like thunder. Someone close. Someone trusted. Someone who knew his schedule, his home, his routines. Someone who had wanted to break him, publicly. 20 minutes later, the church was on lockdown. State troopers swept the perimeter. Elders barricaded the doors. Parents whispered, "Lord, have mercy," after every sound. Inside the pastor's office, Elijah sat with Governor Richmond and two investigators, the photo still on the desk like a curse. "Pastor," the investigator said gently, "who has access to your home?" Elijah rubbed his temples. "My choir director has a spare key, the youth minister, my cousin Marcus sometimes stops by to check the house." He hesitated. "And one more person." Richmond leaned in. "Who?" "My assistant," Elijah said quietly. "Caleb." The governor blinked. "The young man you introduced me to last month?" Elijah nodded slowly. The investigator scribbled notes. "Have you two had any disagreements? Anything recently?" Elijah paused. Then sighed. "Caleb was very upset when I announced the partnership with the governor's office." "Upset?" Richmond echoed. "Why?" "He said politicians only show up when the cameras are around. That we were letting the state invade our church. He said white lawmakers never helped us before, so why start now?" Richmond swallowed hard. "And you think he might have acted on that?" Elijah looked at the picture again. "I think anger makes men do foolish things." The front doors burst open. A trooper rushed in. "We found something." Everyone hurried to the lobby where the trooper held a crumpled sheet of paper. "It was taped to the back gate," he said, handing it to Richmond. The governor unfolded it. Her jaw tightened. Pastor Elijah leaned in to read. It said, "We told you not to partner with her. Now we're going to show you why." The signature at the bottom was a shock. A name no one in the room wanted to believe. Caleb Brooks. The pastor's face went white. His assistant. His mentee. His godson. The boy he took in when his parents died. The boy he raised like blood. Governor Richmond placed a hand on his shoulder. "Elijah, I'm so sorry." But Elijah shook his head. No, that doesn't make sense. Caleb isn't violent. He doesn't hate you. He's angry at the system, yes. But he wouldn't do this to me." And then, Footsteps echoed from the back of the sanctuary. Slow, deliberate, uneasy. Everyone turned. Caleb stood there, hands raised, eyes watery, face pale. "Pastor." Elijah froze. Richmond tensed. Troopers raised their hands toward their holsters. But Caleb didn't move toward them. He moved toward Elijah. "Pastor, it wasn't supposed to go this far." Elijah's heart cracked. "Caleb, what did you do?" Caleb fell to his knees. I just wanted you to listen. I wanted you to see that teaming up with the governor wasn't safe. These people, these politicians, they don't protect us. I thought if Officer Mallory embarrassed you, you'd back out of the partnership." Elijah stepped back like he'd been struck. "You sent him?" Caleb sobbed. "I made an anonymous call. Told him a suspicious man was hanging around the church. I knew he'd show up and do what he always does. But I swear on my mother's grave, I didn't know he'd pull a gun on you. I didn't know he'd." He broke down. "But the photo," Richmond said coldly, "the note." Caleb looked up, terrified. "That wasn't me. I only called the police. I didn't threaten Pastor Elijah. I didn't go near his house." Silence fell. Heavy. Crushing. Unexpectedly. And then Elijah asked the question no one wanted to voice. "Caleb, then who did?" Before Caleb could speak, another trooper ran in. "Governor. We just checked the police logs. Officer Mallory wasn't responding to a call when he showed up." Richmond frowned. "What do you mean?" The trooper swallowed. He logged the call manually. Off the record. No caller ID. No audio. Just a note, "Suspicious black male at New Dawn Baptist." Elijah whispered, "So Caleb wasn't the one who called?" "No, sir," the trooper said. "Officer Mallory made it up." Caleb's eyes widened. "I swear to God, I thought he came because of me. I thought." Richmond shook her head slowly. "Oh my God." Elijah's voice shook. "Then who left the photo?" Another trooper burst in from the hallway. "We found fingerprints on the envelope." The room froze. "It's Mallory," the trooper said. "He stalked your house." The church erupted in gasps. Elijah staggered backward. Governor Richmond clenched her fists. "That officer wasn't acting on anyone's orders," she said. "He was acting on his own hatred." Caleb covered his face and cried harder. "Pastor, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." Elijah approached him slowly. The crowd held its breath. Would he condemn him? Reject him? Push him away? Instead, Pastor Elijah knelt beside him. "Caleb," he whispered, "anger blinds good men, but it doesn't make them monsters." Caleb sobbed into his shoulder. "I never meant for any of this." "I know," Elijah said. "But now we know who did." At dawn the next morning, the entire state watched headlines appear. Suspended officer arrested after threatening black pastor. Home invasion evidence found in police cruiser. Governor demands statewide reform. Footage of Mallory being handcuffed played on every screen. He didn't smirk this time. He didn't bark orders. He didn't look powerful. He looked small. Beaten. Finished. And Pastor Elijah stood beside Governor Richmond at the press conference, holding the same photo Mallory had left on his desk. "This image was meant to scare me," Elijah said. "But it only reminded me of something stronger than fear." He lifted his head. "Community." Then Richmond stepped forward. "Justice," she said, "has been served. But our work is far from done." That Sunday, the church overflowed. People stood outside, listening through open windows. Pastor Elijah took the pulpit, voice steady and strong. "Family," he said, "sometimes the devil dresses like a friend, and sometimes he dresses like a police officer. But no matter the disguise, truth reveals all." The crowd hummed amen. And let this be a reminder, justice doesn't only come when we demand it. It comes when we refuse to be silent. Just before service ended, a trooper stepped in and whispered something in Governor Richmond's ear. She froze, turned pale, then looked at Elijah. "Pastor?" "Mallory wasn't working alone," she whispered. And the room went silent all over again. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe button. We celebrate you.